this video because one of my kind of New Year's resolutions, or something I really want to be doing with my life, is becoming a stronger voice in the foster care community. And like, I know I can be that for children, but what about being it for the birth parents too, or not birth parents, but for the foster parents involved, like the people like me. Like, I feel like there's really lacking a voice in that system, and since I was that, I really want to start speaking out more on my experience with it, because I do want change. I would never recommend anyone to be a foster parent in Wisconsin, and that's really unfair to the children, but that's a two-way street. I mean, that's a lot on the social services too of why I feel that way, and I think speaking out more, humanizing the situation, putting a face to it, I don't know if it'll make any difference. I really don't. But I just kind of want to talk about it more. It's definitely holds a big presence in my life, and I mean, I'm grappling with some issues right now with it, and I just kind of, I want to be more open about it. There needs to be a change in foster care. There does. I like even thought about this, like, I want to tackle a government agency. It's hard to make any headway doing that. The biggest advice I ever had is if that's what you're gonna do, you better be willing to die for that fight. So I'm pretty much at this point like, here I lay, come and find me. So I wanted to kind of touch base on something that I've been grappling with. It's kind of confusing, kind of a long story, so you kind of have to hear me out. I know there could be some judgment in this. I hope I explain myself well of why we've made certain decisions that we've made. So a little backstory is we adopted our nephews, Jake and I, this September, and they were in foster care for 5 years, or 4 years in foster care, 1 year in the adoptive time period. So termination of parental rights had happened, but none of the adoption paperwork was done, so we couldn't adopt yet. And it was some tough years. It was a lot of, they were through Crosse County specifically, and La Crosse just didn't work the case, and it was easier at one point, that I'll make another video on this whole shit show, but it was easier at one point when the violent felon birth father entered the picture to attempt having him take custody of the children because there was less paperwork involved. And it was not in the best interest of the children, and the real kickers where this is, for 3 years, La Crosse County had never seen our children, and they never actually met this man face to face. They never went and checked out his home. He was still getting in trouble, but they just kept prolonging it. So they hadn't seen the children, so these are just, the kids turned into numbers on papers, and it was a mess, and it was cruel, it was neglectful, it was cruel. I have a lot of words for it. And so that was like the big picture of what we were dealing with, is we wanted to adopt these children. Not only did we want to just adopt them, it wasn't like we were so attached and we didn't want them to leave, but they would have left into a very dangerous situation that was not being checked out. So this man hadn't been checked out, we hadn't been checked out. Our house was never licensed in Milwaukee. They've never, La Crosse County, who had custody of the children, they've never been to our house. We've owned it for 3 years now, so the 2 years they were in foster care, in this house they had never been to. The apartment beforehand had never been checked out. Our youngest is 5, and the last time they saw him, he was 1 year old. So like, none of these people are being checked out, but it's like, this is the children's lives. So like, okay, so that's the backstory, is we really felt this whole time we had to protect the children from this agency that had not worked the case, who did not know the children, but they had all the control of the children, and it was easier for them to send them with this man who was not a good person. I mean, you just have to trust me on that. He was not a good person. It's a whole other video to talk about. And then there was us. And so politics, this is really the politics of marriage, of how this is happening, and this is more the heart of what I'm dealing with right now, that I'm having a hard time with. So in foster care, these guys are Jake's nephews, and we are just dating. I mean, like, we haven't been together 7 years, so we don't have any partnership. We're not technically married, we are engaged. So at the adoption, I did not adopt. The plan was that Jake adopted as the because he was the boy's kinship family member that had taken them in. I could have adopted, but we truly did not believe that Wisconsin could handle doing that paperwork because they had messed up all the other paperwork, and it was better for Jake to take the role as the parent, and I would take a role as guardianship. So guardianship means you have all the rights, but the parent can take them away from you. So that's like the person that is above me. And then when we get married in October, the plan is that I adopt the children, and then we're equal. And it was really a reason of paperwork, and like, we adopted in September, we're getting married next October, this is 1 year, things should be okay. That's after 5 years of things not being okay. I don't know how things could be this bad all the time about paperwork. So, back to foster care. When we got engaged, in a way, we got engaged politically. It is kind of not heard of for a single man to adopt 2 children, and with Jake's chef schedule, where he works a lot of hours, he provides, but he works a lot of hours, we decided in foster care it was best case scenario for us to get engaged because we were committed enough for that, but to make the announcement and make up a wedding date because we needed to be held off as strong. Like, we needed to be seen as this very strong couple. We needed to be stronger than the birth father. We needed to be seen as a family unit. And so there was no getting down on their knee. It was a discussion at the dinner table. How are we going to do this? We're committed to each other. Let's just get engaged now. That makes the most sense. We did not get married, though, for a few reasons. The first, I'll just say now, and I'll talk about the second reason later. The first reason we didn't get married is because if I wasn't married and Jake had the children, I could become the wild card in the whole case, and I could really, really push some buttons. And like, even our lawyer said that I should be the one doing the questionable things. I should be the one pushing buttons. Nothing illegal, but like pissing them off, because in foster care, if you're labeled uncooperative, a lot of the time the children will get yanked. It's harder to yank kinship kids who are living with family members than it is other foster parents, but they'll do it all the time. I have friends this happens to. So the plan was I could be uncooperative. I could be pretty much a pain in their ass every single day for 5 years. That is what I am. I'm still it today. And if anything went down, the end goal plan would be Jake and I would separate. Not a real separation, but I would move out of the house. And so that was why we didn't get married. It was to create strength with an engagement, but to allow me to be a wild card, to try to get things moving, but also to protect Jake and the children staying here so that the children couldn't be yanked, that I would be the one that left. And that was scary sometimes. And it was unfair. I mean, I know that's childish to say something's unfair, but it was. But I mean, like, our engagement, we made an engagement to keep the children, to show off a strength. And like, I guess I'm not a romantic, and I never like envision the perfect fairy tale, but I do sometimes kind of hate that this story has to be attached to my relationship so much. And so, yeah, back to the engagement. We got engaged. Jake just went and got a ring, passed it to me across the table. We had the discussion, and we kind of left it at that. We threw out a wedding date pretty far off into the future. The reason we threw it off into the future is because I was giving up my engagement for this, but I was not willing to give up my wedding. I did not want to get married because of foster care. I wanted to get married for Jake and I, because we did get engaged, but we do love each other. We do plan on being together. The reason we're getting married is for us. How we planned our engagement was political reasons. And I just feel really like, I don't feel sick to my stomach, but I feel wronged in a way, and I feel that was unfair. But it is, at this point, it is what it is. I mean, there was some funny parts of it. Like, I'm a really quiet person, and we even decided, like, maybe we should have this big engagement at a Bucks game. So, because we were all about creating a paper trail and like creating facts. I mean, like really, like anything that we could paper trail, we did, and everything that we could put proof to, we did. So we're like, let's do it at a game, then we'll have a YouTube video, and we can show them that, and it'll be like our kind of fake engagement. And we didn't do that, but we thought about it because, yeah, everything, since they weren't seeing us, everything was through email. So like everything I ever say, I have proof of, which is kind of cool now. But back then it was different. I got really good at bookkeeping for that reason. So yeah, we were engaged. We put it off for like 2.5 years, 2.5-year engagement. And now we're here, and now I'm having a hard time with the wedding. So obviously they're not going to be involved at all. Like, we're out of foster care. They're not involved, but now we have like this totally new issue that we're dealing with. And so when we adopted, we changed their names and we destroyed the old social security numbers, and we're getting new ones. You're supposed to get them in a 3-week time. Well, the adoption, we got paperwork stating that the adoption hasn't totally been processed yet because they're missing paperwork from foster care. They're missing the location where Jake lived when the children were born and where they were placed. And it's kind of like, how did we even adopt when you guys didn't have this, for starters? Because like, it was, when you adopt, they comb through that. It actually got sent back for some spelling and grammar errors, let alone missing addresses. Like, it's mind-boggling. I don't know how I can escape these people. I want to be done with them. I want them out of our lives. I want to have control of when they're in it and when they're out. I want control like this when I open up on here and decide to talk about them. I don't want them withholding these things. So like, it might not sound like a big deal to have these documents for the kids, but it is. Like, we can't claim them. We can't put any money in a college fund for them because they don't exist. Like, legally on paper, the children don't exist. I can't enroll them at any new daycare. They have to stay at the one they're at because I don't have the social. I don't have any state documents about it. The school's on my ass about it. Thankfully, they can be seen at their doctors. I can't even imagine bringing them to a new facility right now, though. Like, insurance purposes, this is just a nightmare. And it's, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know why they can't go to La Crosse to get these documents. I don't know why they're not talking to us. I don't know why they haven't shown up when I've reached out to them. I don't know why we don't have these documents. But back to the marriage. So, like I had said in the beginning, Jake adopted and I didn't. So I was supposed to become guardian, but Jake can't grant that to me unless we have these documents. And right now, I have nothing to the children. And I know this would be super, super worst case scenario, but worst case scenario, something happens to Jake on his, let's say, way home from work, something catastrophic. I don't get custody of those children. And I know that's like, oh, that's a big idea, Beth. That's so far out here. But we've dealt with some really worst case scenarios. And even if it, I hope to God it would never happen, but wouldn't it be stupid not to prepare for it? So I'm spending the day and I am just racking through the phone listings, trying to get a hold of someone, trying to talk to somebody. I want someone to hear me out on this. I want to be heard. I want this to be fixed. I don't know if it'll happen today. I mean, it's government during the holidays. I can let you know it's not going to be happening today. But I'm scared that, I mean, I'm going to do everything possible. We're not going to go out and do this, but a real option right now is for Jake and I to go down and get our marriage certificate so that I could protect the children. And that's the thing I'm having the hardest time about is I don't want this in my marriage. I don't want to have to keep making this decision. And I'm having a hard time then when I'm planning my wedding. How it feels less and less important. Like, I keep having to remind myself and search for the meaning of my marriage. But with all this politicalness around, maybe I should get married now to protect the kids. Maybe that's how I got engaged. That's how I even came up with my date, is foster care, so that they could be out of my lives. And it's just like, it's not exiting. And I'm really, I have the heart to Jake and I and our relationship, but I'm losing the point of the marriage. And it's been hard. I keep telling myself it's a ceremony, it's something we rejoice in, but I really wish the politics of us getting married would leave my life. At this point, all I can remind myself is that when we're making these decisions, and yes, it's politics, and yes, it's crap, it's coming from love, and it's coming from us protecting who we are and our family, and protecting what we have. And maybe at the heart of marriage, that's what it is. That is what it is. And so I'm like, yeah, this was a crappy hand. Foster care is a crappy hand. It's a horrible experience where you feel powerless. And I know some people have good experiences, and it's really the social workers you get, and so on and so on. Well, we got bad social workers, and I don't have a lot of forgiveness for it right now. I'm still searching for that one. But I think right now, at the end of the day, I just have to keep remembering that my marriage is something, it is for my family, it is something we protect, it is coming from a place of love, and this will be over. This will one day end. And I don't know. That's where we're at right now. I'm excited to get married. I mean, it's definitely that. I'm excited for the ceremony. I just have to keep reminding myself what it is about. Like, it is Jake and I. It is not foster care. It is Jake and I. It's hard every day when you're trying to deal with this paperwork and protecting the children and making sure they get what's rightfully theirs, and making sure that, hell, they have identification in America. I mean, what? So, yeah, I wanted to hop on and start to give some, eyes into the foster care world here. Hopefully I'll be making more videos about it. I do really want to make a series, and I kind of have already filmed it, but I got to release it, of just filming really what happened to us in foster care.